You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you.
80 years later, Marvin Gilmore, who turns 100 this year, still remembers.
I became a man and a soldier overnight.
Early morning, June 6, 1944, Gilmore and his fellow soldiers in an all-black anti-aircraft artillery battalion were part of an armada of more than 7,000 ships and boats on the English Channel, supported by about 12,000 Allied aircraft. Their orders: invade Nazi-occupied France. General Eisenhower warned it would not be easy.
Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely.
Being African-American, we were the first on the line.
The price of a liberated Europe was paid in lives. Gilmore saw it firsthand on Utah and Omaha beaches.
When we climbed that hill, all we were trained to kill or be killed. War is gruesome. And I think most soldiers came back, we don't talk about it. We really don't.
2,501 Americans were among the more than 4,400 Allied troops killed on D-Day. It changed the course of the war, igniting the Allies' defeat of the German Third Reich. An unconditional surrender came 11 months later.
What if the Allies had failed that day? What do we know about where we'd be or how the war could have unfolded?
You don't know, right? In Eisenhower, you read Eisenhower's message going out. Well, Eisenhower had in his pocket that message accepting responsibility if the mission had failed, if he had to withdraw, if it didn't work.
Memorials like this one in Normandy are a tribute to the bravery and sacrifice of veterans like Gilmore and those who never came home. They also serve as a reminder of what we owe them.
And I think showing that gratitude by living in the way that honors them.
There's a phrase that goes, the best way to honor our troops is to be an American worth fighting for.
Yeah, that's the key. That is the key.
In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
As the plane carrying 48 American heroes floats across the western coast of France, touching down in Normandy.
This is my third time back.
One of those on board, First Lieutenant Wally King, remembers the first time he made the flight. One of 75 combat missions the fighter pilot flew during World War II.
What we were doing was very dangerous work with low-level dive bombing and strafing. But it was nothing but devastation when I saw it that time.
This time, 8 decades later, King and a handful of veterans have come back. The music and fanfare can't drown out memories of the horror that was part of their first trip here.
And I was in the first wave with 90-millimeter gun. You don't know what we're seeing, really. They were all 18, 19-year-old. You know, never even made the beach. And it was loaded, believe me.
Still, they're drawn to this place, they say, to honor the men and women they call heroes, each marked by a single white headstone.
The ones that are my buddies here, yes, sir. These are all brothers in arms.
This group is, frankly, the last of the survivors, now fighting not enemy soldiers, but time.
They're now, most of them, 100 years old or over. So it's important that we give them the very best ceremony that we can. They deserved it.
This community transformed, thousands in military vehicles and full uniforms, honoring the men and women who fought for and secured their freedom.
Well, it's important to me to pay a tribute to the people who liberated Europe from the Germans.
Led by a group of Americans whose courage and dedication endures 80 years later.
Friends are remembering a World War II veteran from Fairport who died while traveling to Normandy for the commemoration of D-Day. Robert Perchetti passed away at the age of 102 while on his way to France. 13 WEM's Natalie Calzatoni spoke with his friends today. Natalie, good evening.
Good evening, Matt. Robert Perchetti's friends tell me he was a generous man who had a zest for life and was always up for traveling to World War II commemorations.
It was a privilege to know him, and I'll miss him.
William Leone says his friend of 46 years, Robert Perchetti, lived quite the life over 102 years. He says the World War II Navy veteran loved to travel and share his stories with younger generations.
He had a real zest for living. He would go visit children in the grammar schools in the area, talk with them about his experiences growing up, his experiences during the Second World War. He wrote this book on his life, An American Life Well Lived.
Perchetti passed away Friday while traveling to Normandy, where he was going to attend a ceremony marking the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Even at his advanced age, he felt it very important to be at Normandy for June 6th.
Al DiCarlo was also a friend of Perchetti's and his travel companion. In 2019, 13 Wham interviewed both men while they were on a trip to the South Pacific.
It's a great feeling to be able to come back here and to see how well these people have done.
DiCarlo was traveling with Perchetti to Normandy on Friday when his friend became ill during a stop in Germany. He was airlifted to the hospital and died shortly after.
The doctor was with him. He was not alone. He was peaceful. He was comfortable. She played Frank Sinatra, his favorite singer, on her phone, and he peacefully left us.
DiCarlo says Perchetti was an inspiration to him, and before his passing, was thrilled to be with other World War II veterans.
I mean, he was a radio man on a communications ship off the coast of Iwo Jima in Okinawa, and he met another radio man I think he was from the Army. So they were chatting about things from 80 years ago. It was amazing to watch.
William Leone tells me as of right now, there is not a set funeral date for Robert, but it'll be held at St. Jerome's Church in East Rochester.
A local veteran heading to New Orleans to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day. George Stites was on the beaches of Normandy on that day at just 19 years old. This Wednesday, he'll be heading to the National World War II Museum in New Orleans to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Today, we spoke with Mr. Stites about his experience that day.
We prayed for him, and we made it through D-Day, and I ended up with all 5 campaigns in Europe. I spent 30 months overseas, and at 19, you grow up in a hurry.
It was called D-Day. Many of us weren't alive, but many of you at home watching possibly were. We start our story on the beaches of France with U.S. troops that included a 20-year-old from Waynesville to help end the rule of Nazis. The storming of the Normandy beaches in France, June 6, 1944, brought thousands of American soldiers to free Western Europe from Hitler. More than 10,000 forces were killed, their sacrifice giving the Allies a foothold. A year later, the Nazis would surrender.
My name is Cash Simmons. I'm 15 years old, and I go to T.C. Robertson. So this is my little collection corner. I started collecting about a year and a half ago. What got me into it was my great-grandfather who served.
Cash found his great-grandfather William Stevens's medals and uniform in his grandparents' closet. In this cubby, he keeps his artifacts.
These are his medal boxes.
Bill grew up in Waynesville and served as an infantryman in an advance team that landed on French beaches in 1944 facing booby traps and mines. They were first to complete their mission on a French island.
Make sure it was free of any Germans that were hiding out.
His great-grandfather went on to liberate numerous small French towns. This, a German Labor Party flag he brought home. Here, his multiple medals.
He was awarded the Bronze Star while acting as platoon leader.
Plus a Purple Heart, along with his great-grandfather's belongings.
Merritt, he was from Columbia, South Carolina, and he flew 30 missions. It makes me feel like I'm saving history and preserving it, which gives me a good feeling.
He's preserved 25 servicemen's histories with deep knowledge of his great-grandfather's 24th Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron. Writer Mike Hind in France has solicited Cash's help for a book.
It was thanks to Cash and the material that he's collected that we've now got the clearest possible picture of who it was that landed on these islands before the actual main D-Day landings even began.
This was going to be thrown away.
For Cash, it's about honor with groupings from all service fields. While it began with his great-grandfather Bill, it continues by revering others.
This guy died for his country, and he gave the ultimate sacrifice for a good cause, freedom.